Alright, so the September PTB patch update just dropped, so I'm just going to kind of read over it and go over everything with you guys, give you the rundown, and just some of my general thoughts on it. So the first main thing that everybody is probably wondering about is the Antiface camping. It was initially announced back during the 7th year anniversary stream, and now it looks like we're finally getting it in-game or in the PTB. So going forward, you'll notice a new meter appears whenever you're on the hook. This meter will gradually fill whenever the killer is near you. The closer the killer is, the faster the meter will build. And once it's full, you'll be able to unhook yourself with a 100% chance of success, even during the second hook phase. Unhooking yourself in this way will grant you the usual benefits such as endurance and haste. So it's just basically a way of making sure that a survivor that's being face camped has the opportunity to get off the hook, whether their teammates having to risk running in and getting themselves killed in the process, especially for cases with insta-down killers like Bubba in particular. I'm sure everybody's had their own experiences with that. I do think it's mainly for insta-down killers like Bubba, Billy, like Pinky Finger Clown, Iridescent Head Huntress. I think those are the main situations where face camping happens the most outside of like endgame. It says, to ensure that it cannot be abused by aggressive survivors, the rate at which the meter fills would decrease or potentially even stop entirely when other survivors are nearby. Additionally, once the exit gates are powered, this feature is disabled entirely. This is because at this point in the match, the killer needs to do whatever they can to secure one last kill, so we can't expect them to graciously leave the hook. This new mechanic is intended to address the most egregious camping scenarios, discouraging killers from standing too close to a hook survivor for an extended period and creating opportunities for the other survivors to make the save. From my understanding of how this works, since it still shows on the photo here that you have the chance to unhook yourself, I'm assuming that you get to choose when you unhook yourself when the meter fills. So if you ended up in a scenario where a killer is just hardcore face camping you, you could still just sit there and wait on the hook even after the meter is filled, and then right before you fall into second stage, then unhook yourself. That way you're wasting more of the killer's time. Then even if you do go down, if you have other perks like Off the Record, Decisive Strike, if you do go down, then you still have, you still waste a little bit extra time, and then obviously you have the chance to unhook yourself again once you fall into second stage. The only thing I'm a little worried about right now is in some of the posts on the DBD Twitter, I'll post some of them down here below, they stated that the hook meter will fill between different floors, so like on multi-level maps. It's meant to be in case somebody's standing at the top of the basement stairs just camping the basement from above. That way if they're above it, it still counts as being in range. The only thing I'm worried about is multi-level maps like Midwich, RPD, the game, stuff like that. I don't know how that's going to work, if there's going to be some kind of system in place outside of the just slowing down if a survivor is in chase with you. Because if say you have somebody hooked on the upper floor of Midwich, and everybody knows that there's kind of a long distance you have to go to get to the staircase to get upstairs. So you could be nowhere near where the hook survivor actually is, technically in proximity, but nowhere actually near getting towards them, and just be either patrolling a gen, just walking around, or just chasing a survivor, and still potentially getting punished for that. So I don't know how that's going to work. I do hope that there's going to be something in place to prevent that, because I do think it's unfair if the killer gets punished just for walking below them. So I guess we'll have to wait and see for the PTB and see how that works. I do know that it said if you're in a chase with a survivor that it slows down or potentially even stops. I'm assuming it stops if it's around 2, maybe 3 survivors. I don't know which one it's going to be. We'll find out soon. But yeah, if you just happen to be directly below a hook, like a hook survivor, and you're chasing somebody, if that survivor intentionally stays below them, even if it slows down the unhook meter on the person on the upper floor, it's still kind of unfair, I feel like, because then the killer could just be minding their own business, chasing that other survivor, doing nothing wrong, and the person upstairs is essentially getting a free deliverance, so that's giving more pressure for the survivors on the killer, because now nobody has to leave to go unhook because their teammates got a bar filling up and they can get a free unhook. So that's just some main thoughts that I'm kind of waiting to see how that'll work out, but I guess we'll find out in a couple days when the PTB goes live. Next up is going to be the Skull Merchant. I know a lot of people have been very, very excited for this, asking for it for quite some time to kind of get rid of the 3-genning strats. So they're kind of doing a bit of an overwork. First thing is going to be the lock-on. So there's going to be active zones being the main culprit behind the Skull Merchant's ability to defend generators. Are no more. On top of making survivors exposed, these zones provided the Skull Merchant with too much information on the survivors within them, allowing the killer to quickly react and chase them away. With active zones removed, the Skull Merchant's drones needs a new way to lock on the survivors. Now whenever a survivor is scanned by a drone's beams, they will receive 1 stack of lock-on. Upon reaching 3 stacks of lock-on, the survivor will immediately receive a claw trap. However, avoiding the drone scanners won't be easy thanks to the introduction of 2 new modes. So the 2 new modes are the Stealth mode and the Scouting mode. In stealth mode, the drone's spinning beams will be invisible and the drone will be much quieter. Survivors will want to watch closely for the lights on the drone itself to tell where the beams are so they can sneak up and disable it. And in scouting mode, the drone scan lines will be visible and rotate much faster, making it more difficult to approach and run by undetected. In either mode, the drone scan lines will not detect a survivor who is stationary, effectively preventing them from being used to guard generators. A survivor can interact with the drone in either state to disable it for 45 seconds, after which they'll return to stealth mode. And then for the claw traps themselves, for whenever a survivor gets a claw trap, if they're healthy, they will be instantly injured. If they're injured, they will receive deep wound, and it will not give the survivor a speed boost. The survivor will suffer from the broken status effect until the trap is removed, and their location will be revealed on the killer's scanner for a short duration. Additionally, survivors with a claw trap who are scanned by one of the killer's drones receive a 10% movement speed penalty for 6 seconds, and are revealed to the killer with killer instinct for 3 seconds. And then the claw trap's battery will expire, and the trap will be removed automatically after 45 seconds. So, my first thoughts on it, trying to get up to 3 stacks of lock-on is going to be kind of tedious, I feel like, for Skull Merchant. If you do more of like a hit-and-run style, where you kind of just throw a drone down, you get somebody in a loop, throw a drone down, get a lock-on stack, since it says that lock-on doesn't decay, you could do that and then just like pick your drone up manually and walk away and try and do that to survivors, but it's not really worth it. Because you can do that, and you can get an injure when you get 3 stacks, but, I mean, that's a lot of work just for getting them injured. If it was exposed, that'd be one thing, but for just getting them injured is kind of meh. The best part of it, I feel like, is going to be the 10% movement speed penalty for 6 seconds once they have the claw trap on itself. I think that's going to be the only thing that really makes it worth it. But I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to be really effective. They'll probably have to tweak it a bit, because right now it sounds like it's going to be very, very clunky, pretty weak. Trying to get 3 stacks just for an injure is a lot. But yeah, the movement speed penalty is the main thing that looks like it'll be useful. Outside of that, it's not going to really make much of a difference, especially against good survivors. For the quality of life, they've made a couple adjustments for Skull Merchant to improve with these new updates. So Skull Merchant will now have 6 drones, whereas before she had 4. She'll also now be able to immediately become undetectable for 8 seconds after deploying a drone, and the minimum distance between drones is now 16 meters, where it was 24. Killer's movement speed is no longer decreased when checking the scanner, and lock-on progress no longer decays at all. So that's what I was talking about before, getting the 3 stacks. So it's possible to get them, it just, I don't know, it doesn't seem worth. Drones can no longer be manually reactivated. Drones can now be placed above or below other drones deployed on different floors. So when I read this part, right now, with Skull Merchant as she is in the live game, if you put a drone on, like say you're on the game and you put a drone on the upper floor, you can't scan somebody that's below. Like if it's in it's like detection mode, it won't scan anybody below, it won't hit the scanner. But if they're in the range and it's activated of it, it does go through the floors. This part here, saying that it's going to be placed above and below, makes me think that they're removing that ability. So I don't think it'll be able to scan people and build lock-on stacks from different floors anymore, just because it says that. It just wouldn't really make much sense. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I'm assuming based on what it's saying. Failing to hack a drone will now grant 1 stack of lock-on instead of instantly locking on. Skull Merchant's footsteps are now quieter, making it harder for you to track her behind walls. And they updated her chase music as well as some of her add-ons just to kind of make it fit in better with the update. I am very curious to see what they do with the chase music. Right now, everybody kind of calls their chase music washing machine music because of how it sounds. And I kind of have to agree, so I am excited. I know that recently they redid the Alien chase music as well, and I think they did a nice job with that, so I'm hoping that this will be good too. The next big update, this is one I've actually been really excited for myself, I've been hoping for a while, is the Borgo, the Shattered Square, is finally getting an update. Thank goodness. I've been waiting for this for a long time. So the main thing right now is the low obstacles. It's possible to bump into some small objects, such as piles of hay or carcasses, and since these obstacles were so small, it's possible you bump into them without even seeing them, leading to some frustrating moments. We've done a pass on these sort of objects to ensure that anything which might block your path is clearly visible, in most cases making them taller so they're easier to see. Which is really nice, because I had that happen to me a lot. The amount of times that I would be chasing a survivor, hug a corner, and just get stuck drove me up the wall, so this is going to be really nice. The size and the layout is one of the largest maps in the game. I genuinely feel like you could cut this map in half and it would still be a huge map. So they said that they're going to be cutting it down a little bit, making it smaller and turning it more to a square to match the name Shattered Square. The positions of some tiles have been readjusted as a result. Most of the obstacles on the map also tend to be fairly low, making it quite easy for killers to spot survivors at long ranges, and making it difficult for stealthy killers to sneak up on survivors. So to break up the long lines of sight, they've rearranged some of the tiles to limit how far you're able to see at any given point. They kind of did a little bit of a change similar to that a few months back ago, I think it was. The stone walls that are around on the Borgo map, they used to be really, really low, very easy to see over, and there was basically no like cover at all across any of the map except for the big main building. And they raised those up recently by a decent amount, so that way, I think it was also partially to kind of, other than just like breaking line of sight, I think it was partially for blocking, like giving survivors more playability around range killers like Deathslinger and Huntress, Trickster. That way had a little bit more safe loops to kind of go to. And then the overall navigation of the map is also going to be changed. They just made various changes to make it easier to run around, so making objects clear to see which objects you can walk around and which ones you can't, so that way you're not just running into random things. Also, this is a side note completely unrelated. They show this photo of a cute little pig pen, and I don't know what it is, but I think this is adorable, and I'm very excited to see that in game. And then we have the Macmillan Estate. So this one's not like a huge rework, but essentially they're taking all of the Macmillan maps and they're doing a secondary, like an alternate version of it. So something like Suffocation Pit, for example, little things might be different. The trademark mineshaft will still be there, but it may be in a different spot, and the shape and layout of the map may be also slightly different. That's kind of what we have right now with the Badham Preschool. There's, I think, 2 or 3 versions of it right now. So it'll be something like that, same map, same general items and buildings, loops. It'll just be slightly rearranged, that's all. So I guess adding more variation into the map pool is the overall goal with this. The next change is going to be some minor tweaks to some of the killer perks. The first one is going to be Feared of Chase. Essentially, it's one of the lesser used killer perks, and it provides a way to switch obsessions throughout the match and reduce your tear radius during a chase. So to give it a slight boost, they're going to increase the tear radius reduction for each token to 5 meters. It was 4 meters before, and it's going to go up to a maximum of 20 meters. I'm going to be honest, I don't think this is going to make a big difference. I personally never use Feared of Chase. I'm probably still not going to use Feared of Chase after this. It's not really that good. Like, it doesn't make a difference. If I wanted to switch the Obsession, I would just run Nemesis instead. You could proc it more frequently, and the Obsession that it gets swapped onto gets the Oblivious status effect. And honestly, with Feared of Chase, I mean, I guess there could be some builds where reducing your tear radius at a chase could be good if you wanted to be a little more stealthy. But usually if you're trying to reduce your tear radius, you want it when you're outside of a chase, because that's when you get more value to try and sneak up on survivors. In a chase, it's kind of iffy and whether or not that's going to work. I just don't really think it's worth it. And then the other perk is going to be Background Player. Right now, this allows you to sprint very quickly when the killer picks up another survivor, creating an opportunity to get into position for a save. Not only is this perk highly situational, but also leaves you exhausted, which could hinder you if you're chased shortly after. To make sure this perk is more meaningful when it activates, we are increasing the duration of the speed boost to 5 seconds, whereas before it was 4 seconds. Again, they did say these are minor tweaks, but I don't think it really makes that big of a difference. Background Player isn't terrible if you are really just like going into a match with the intention of just being a team player, saving your teams, going for sabos or flashlight saves, something like that, and you want to run Background Player. That's like, it's fine, you'll probably get value from it. I don't think the extra second is really going to make much of a difference, but I guess we'll see. It gives you a little bit of an extra boost if you're further away when they pick up. And then for killers, they're making a couple minor tweaks to kind of just make overall quality of life better. The first one is Trapper. Obviously he is the face of DBD right now, the first killer that was ever added. And for a lot of people, he is their first experience playing as killer. So because of this, they're trying to keep him as simple and straightforward as possible. See a trap, set a trap. Among new players, the Trapper already performs fairly well, and we don't want to throw off that balance too much. That said, in higher end matches, the Trapper could struggle to keep up, and to assist in those cases, they've made a few changes. So the Trapper will now have 8 bear traps spawn, whereas before it was 6, and he'll also receive a 7.5 haste effect after setting a bear trap. I actually really like these changes. It's nothing major to him, obviously. Again, they're just minor tweaks. Part of the reason why it's just nice to have more traps, but also a big issue with Trapper right now, especially for a lot of maps, is if you spawn in with Trapper and you're on a big map like Toba Landing or Borgo, a lot of the times you have at least 1, sometimes 2 or 3 of your traps spawn on the outer edge of the map, and usually it's nowhere near a gen and you have no reason to go get it. So you kind of almost just have to pretend that those traps don't exist, because if you do want those traps, you have to waste a lot of time just running off to a corner of map where there's no reason to go there other than the trap. So by the time you get there, get the trap, and come back, you lose a lot of pressure, and it's just not really worth it most of the time. So having a couple extra traps will, I guess, kind of help with that and just give you overall more map pressure. I do hope that they'll do something with the trap spawns in the future, because it is really, really annoying right now. I also really like the haste effect after. There's an add-on for this as well that he currently has. I don't remember what the exact percentage is. I'll put it down below so you guys can see it. But I would actually be kind of cool to see how fast he'll be if you stack the 7.5 haste effect that he's going to be getting base with one of those add-ons as well, assuming that they're not going to change it. I think that'd actually be a really nice change for him. And then there's the Huntress and Trickster. For both of them, obviously they're constantly reloading at lockers a lot, but it can give survivors a lot of chance to start running away and gain some distance if you're doing it mid-chase. So for this reason, many Huntress and Trickster players will run add-ons and perks like Iron Maiden to reduce their reload time. Reload time is absolutely atrocious on Huntress. So to improve the quality of life and reduce the reliance on these perks and add-ons, they've reduced the reload time for each killer to 3 seconds, whereas it was 4 seconds. Again, nothing major, but I will happily take it. Anybody who's ever played Huntress without Iron Maiden or Deerskin Gloves knows how disgustingly slow the reload is. I'm definitely still going to run Iron Maiden, but this will just be nice. So now instead of taking 2 seconds to reload, I get 1.5. It'd actually be really nice to do Iron Maiden and Deerskin Gloves and just be zooming through those lockers. But I will take it. A minor change, but I'll take it. And then for Deathslinger, speaking of reloads, the Deathslinger also find himself reloading very frequently. Because of this, the add-ons which reduces reload time see a lot of use. We've taken part of the effect of the Warden Key add-on and incorporated it into base kit and adjusted the add-on accordingly. So Deathslinger now reloads in 2.6 seconds, whereas before it was 2.75. It's not really a big difference. I guess I'm curious to see how they've adjusted the Warden Key add-on, but yeah, the 0.515 second you're probably not really gonna feel it much, and people are still definitely gonna be running reload add-ons just to make it more bearable because it's really long and it sucks. But I will take any few seconds I can get. I will take. Secondly, they also increased the movement speed bonuses when aiming down sights for both the Jaw Smasher and the Wanted Poster add-ons to 1.5 and 3% respectively, whereas before it was 1% and 2.5. Pretty minor. I don't personally use aim down sights, but for anybody out there who does enjoy using that, I think people will be pretty happy. It's a decent buff. 0.5, I'd take it. And then lastly, for Legion, they're adjusting the Legion's BFF add-on. The add-on grants a 4% movement speed increase when the gates are powered, so long as the killer managed to land enough Feral Frenzy strikes during the match. Since this effect needed to be earned and is only active during the very end of the match, they're increasing the movement speed bonus to 6% to make it more impactful. I think 6% actually would be really nice. It's overall movement speed itself, so if you wanted to do like a speedy Legion build, having that extra 6% is really, really nice. I've already got a couple ideas for zooming around with them, for sure. But yeah, so my overall thoughts, I'm pretty excited for this PTB. Obviously, the main things are going to be the Skull Merchant and the anti-camping, but I'm very curious. Again, I'm still unsure of how it's going to work. The anti-camping is going to work with multi-level maps. I really, really hope they listen to community and they've done a lot to make this more bearable. I know that they thought through when it comes to endgame and how to disable, which I'm very happy to hear. I'm just really, really worried about multi-level maps and the killers getting punished for just chasing a survivor and being nowhere near the hook, technically. That's my only thing, but we'll wait and see how it goes in the PTB. Skull Merchant, obviously I'm very excited. I do feel like she's going to be extremely weak and kind of clunky with needing 3 stacks for lock-on. But there's always room for changes. They can always adjust things. They probably will be adjusting quite a bit. So I guess only time will tell. I'm sure lots of people will be happy regardless not to have the 3-genning Merchant anymore, though. But yeah, overall I'm pretty excited. Lots of changes. Most of it's minor. Borgo getting reworked is going to be really nice to see as well. I hope that they did cut it down a good amount, because that map is huge. You could literally cut it in half and still have a relatively big map. So we'll see how they did. Hopefully it went out well. But yeah, and that's everything for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe down below. See you guys in the next one. Bye!